Hey, I'm some nobody, and I really struggled with the title of this video, because even though swearing doesn't make you cool, censoring swear words definitely makes you lame. But whatever. I've mentioned before that I'm a lifelong horror fan, and as you can tell by my YouTube channel, I also participate in the internet. When you combine these two factors, what happens is you inevitably find yourself partaking in some creepypasta. And I think anybody that's ever delved into the scary buttered noodles would agree when I say most creepypasta are really bad, but that's a good thing. Creepypasta is absolutely the brand of horror that has the lowest bar for entry. Anybody can write a creepypasta about any topic they want to write about. And regardless of the quality of that creepypasta, they still created something, they still put something out there. Jeff the Killer is the most famous creepypasta of all time, still popular to this day, and it's absolute dog shit. But I'm not going to pretend that this picture and the story that accompanied it didn't scare the hell out of me as a kid. I'm a big enough man to say that Squidward's suicide had me pissing my trousers. So I have a lot of respect for creepypasta as something that scares the hell out of kids, but also gets them deeper into horror and even inspires them to create. But there's something I've noticed about creepypasta recently. I've gotten really into watching SFM animations of creepypasta readings. Honestly, watching Gmod character models and the TF2 mercenaries go through creepypasta is probably the best way to experience it as an adult. But anyway, most horror stories have a moral to them, a lesson to be learned, or at the very least they serve as a cautionary tale of some sort. Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a story that teaches you not to encroach on property or territory that is unfamiliar to you. Or how the two Smile movies have something to say about how we as a society treat mental illness and addiction. See, the thing I've noticed about creepypasta as of late is that they also have these morals and lessons and cautionary tales built into them. But I won't lie, some of the lessons I've gleaned from these animations are a bit odd, and I'm thankful I don't live in the creepypasta world because I don't think I could handle all these rules you have to follow just to survive. What I've done is assemble a collection of creepypastas adapted into SFM animations, and I'd like to go through them and just try and teach you the lessons present. Together, we'll discover what these characters did wrong to invite this suffering upon them, or we'll discover what they avoided doing to survive. And we'll put those on a list of things you should never do while you're in the creepypasta world, which might come in handy if any of you decide to move there or already live there. Either way, by the end of this video, you're gonna find yourself thinking, man, you can't do shit in creepypasta world. The first creepypasta animation we're going to be looking at is the one that started it all. This wasn't the first SFM creepy animation of all time, but this is the animation that sparked the conversation that led to the idea behind this video. Despite only being about a minute and a half long, while me and my friends were binge watching SFM creepypastas, this is the video that pissed me off more than any other. We come in and our main character explains to us how when it gets warmer outside, he likes to sit on his porch with some wine and just enjoy the weather. And he is content, he is happy, it's nice out, he's enjoying a drink, he's on his own property, so he decides to whistle a little tune to show just how happy he is. And then his neighbor, the miserable hag that she is, says you shouldn't whistle at night, the dead will think you're calling for them, and he laughs it off because he thinks it's a joke. And after she clarifies that she is not joking, our main character suddenly gets uncomfortable and starts seeing shadows in the woods across from his home. The final words of the creepypasta are, "I no longer whistle at night, but they do," and we see our main character being haunted by a whistling shadow as he tries to go to sleep. I'm not cutting out any context here. This man was just sitting out front of his home that he owns, enjoying the weather, enjoying the neighborhood. He decided to whistle, haunted forever. What the fuck, man? I'm looking up at the stars, whistling Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and my neighbor's like, you just gave the ghost permission to come over and kick your ass for the rest of your life. Now, according to my American friends, this is like a real superstition in the Appalachians, but I think this is a perfect example of how easy it is to get fucked up in the creepypasta world. It's just totally innocuous. Whistle at night one time, bam, you just summon spirits that will haunt and torment you every night. Alright, dude, rule number 1, don't whistle at night.
One stall closer. I originally was going to try.
Now this next one is pretty interesting because this animation and the story behind it is predicated on a twist, so this is going to be the first one that I'm going to say. If you don't want to be spoiled on what the twist is, go watch this video now. If you followed those instructions, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video. Surky is an insanely good animator. This video starts with our main character having an odd encounter with a squirrel, then walking to the bathroom while explaining that she'd rather go now than try and hold it through her entire drive home. Right away we're faced with some pretty scary stuff. One of the biggest injustices some women have to deal with, and that's sitting on a public toilet just to take a piss. Our main character starts her business and explains that for some odd reason this bathroom smells like shit. She thought she was alone in the bathroom, but she hears a noise from a few stalls down and crouches down to see if she can get a peek at any feet. She does get a peek at some feet, but unfortunately she also gets mogged because the creature a few stalls down looks back at her and is clearly mewing. Our main character is embarrassed that she got caught peeping, but after hearing some rumbling, she decides to peep again and sees that the creature is now one stall closer. This obviously freaks our main character out a fair amount, and she weighs her options as she hears the creature continue to shuffle around the bathroom. Once the shuffling stops, she decides to take one last peek under the stalls trying to find the creature, but it's disappeared. Then she notices in the handicap stall to her right a big pair of hiking boots. And suddenly the creature is in the same stall as her, and a quick sidebar, I thought it was kinda lazy for Surky to have the creature reach out to her with these weird waggly fingers. Obviously it's a scary visual, but it's very similar to another video on Surky's channel called Copycats, where it fit thematically there, but I don't think it does here. Regardless, our main character hauls ass out of the bathroom and bumps into another girl that's about to go into the same bathroom. And our main character decides not to warn her about what's in there because she figures, that must have been a prank. The person in the handicap stall was probably filming the whole thing. I would love to see a YouTube prankster put in this level of effort. When our main character comes back to campus the next day, she finds out the girl that went in the bathroom after her was murdered, had her throat slit while she was washing her hands, and was the victim of a serial killer supposedly. The twist of this video is that the weird girl was never the threat, it was always the hiking boots man. But what was the message here? What did this scary story warn us to avoid? Now I know what you're thinking, some know by the message is obviously to avoid public bathrooms. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're wrong. Dead wrong. There was actually nothing scary happening while our main character used the bathroom. You can use the public bathroom just fine, but you want to know what would have gotten her killed? The difference between the girl that walked in after our main character and our main character is that our main character did not wash her hands. See, what actually happened to her was she was scared out by the ghost, she went running out the bathroom, but if she hadn't gotten down on her knees to investigate and she had just gone out the stall and walked right out the bathroom, she still would have been fine. The thing that got Zoe from Left 4 Dead killed was washing her hands afterwards. So that is officially rule number 2 for surviving in Creepypasta world, don't wash your hands. And for rule number 3, I'm gonna say don't shake anyone's hand.
From people dressed up in outrageous costumes to customers not dressed up in, well, anything.
Now you might think that this next one is an open and shut case. The name of the video is don't go to Walmart at 4 AM. We have our next rule, we can move on. No, not the case at all. Because the title of this video is not at all an accurate representation of what our main character did wrong to put himself in the spooky scenario. Most of this creepypasta is spent talking about what it's like to work at a Walmart, stocking shelves, encountering weird customers, and getting used to working overnight. He is clearly at the Walmart at 4 AM several times and it never leads to an issue. There are clearly other people at the Walmart at 4 AM several times and it never leads to an issue for them either. What our main character does wrong and what actually leads to his encounter with a spooky monster doesn't even happen inside the Walmart. What happens to him because our main character smokes cigarettes. Don't jump the gun, that's not the rule. You can smoke cigarettes in Creepypasta world. Because our main character goes out back to the freight area for his first smoke break and everything is just fine. He enjoys himself, enjoys the peace and quiet, but he does see what he thinks is a shadow ducked between the two semi-trucks. Now in his head he considers his options. Maybe it was a raccoon, maybe it's a homeless guy trying to sleep under a truck for tonight, but then he thinks, what if it's the scary man? Or even worse, Larry. So he finishes up his smoke break and goes back to work, no problems, works all the way up till 4 a.m. in the Walmart without any monsters coming in, and decides I could really go for another cigarette. But there's a moment, there's a pause before he goes out there for a second smoke break, where he thinks to himself, what if it's the scary man? But then he says this.
Rested upon the door is when that earlier experience came rushing back to me. After negotiating with myself that my need of nicotine was greater than my need to live, I pushed the door open and stepped outside.
And this is where I start to take issue with our main character. I start to think he's a bit of a hypocrite, because he just said he would rather die than not take a second smoke break, but when a monster shows up, suddenly he wants to live. I see that some of you already have your hands up and you think you know the lesson to this creepypasta. Oh, Mr. Nobody, obviously the lesson is don't go behind the Walmart at 4 a.m. No, the lesson is obviously don't take too many breaks at work. Well, you're both wrong, and for calling out without being picked, I'm going to recommend expulsion for both of you and call your parents, and also recommend euthanasia. You see, the real lesson is in our main character's description of the creature and our creature's behavior. Our narrator describes the creature as so thin it looks like it hasn't eaten in years. He says it looks like it's covered in ash. He says its mouth is jagged and leaking this oozy substance. It's skinny because cigarettes will suppress your appetite. It's covered in ash because it's chain smoked enough packs to get a permanent coating. Its mouth is jagged because cigarettes fuck up your teeth, and the liquid oozing out of its mouth is clearly all the tar that cigarettes put in your lungs. Despite the way Plant animated the scene, the narrator never mentions dropping his cigarette. The creature doesn't pounce on our main character to start devouring him, it slowly reaches towards his face. It's trying to bum a cigarette. Being at Walmart at 4 a.m. was not the issue. Taking a smoke break out back to Walmart was not the issue. Our character got away scot-free. He got a better job at the end of the story. Our main character's addiction to nicotine was so strong he said he would die for it, and that is reflected by this cigarette monster. The real moral of don't go to Walmart at 4 a.m. is don't let your nicotine addiction get out of control, or you're gonna wind up prowling the backs of Walmart trying to bum cigarettes off of employees on their breaks. So rule number 4 for surviving Creepypasta world, smoke in moderation.
He then offered to show me after work, and since I didn't have much going on, I agreed.
In this relatively new animation, our main character has recently got a new job in downtown New York. Because New York City has horrible traffic and is America's only walkable city with a decent public transportation system, our main character decides to forego driving to his new job. He opts to take the bus instead, not realizing that the bus still has to deal with New York's horrible traffic, and winds up late to work on his second day. His co-worker, Dr. Gordon Freeman, asks him why he doesn't just take the subway, and our main character admits that he's not too familiar with it, and Gordon offers to teach him. And you really couldn't have a better teacher, because historically speaking, Gordon Freeman is pretty good at riding trains. After this, riding the subway becomes our main character's daily routine. He takes it to and from work for the better part of 6 months. And he regularly sees advertisements for these new and improved train lines that are getting added eventually, but also remarks he's not too interested in them because he'd rather just stick with the route he already knows. So one day our main character's boss gives him a ton of extra work, and not wanting to take the work home with him, he decides to stay at the office late to try and finish it. He mentions that by the time he finishes all of his work, his eyes are killing him because of the bright screen in the dark office, and he notices it's 8:24. So he leaves the office, heads down to the subway station, and eventually a train pulls up that he notices is pristine, and he believes it to be one of the new ones. He gets in, the train starts moving, and he starts looking at his phone. Pretty usual stuff. He yawns, and that's when he checks the time and realizes he's been on the train for 45 minutes. Meaning he was so totally engrossed by his phone he didn't even notice that the train didn't stop for 45 minutes straight. Even though he left the office at 8:24 and his phone is saying that it's 5:38. Yeah, I know military time, don't make a big deal of it. He finally looks up from his phone and notices that all the other passengers are scary now with lightless eyes and huge smiles, and that's when the subway's lights go out. The other passengers surround him in the dark and he asks them what they want, to which they reply,
"We want your eyes. We want your light. It's so dark down here."
Our main character freaks out, runs to the end of the train, and shuts his eyes. When he eventually feels a hand on his shoulder, he goes to swat it away, and that's when he realizes he can see again. And the hand on his shoulder belongs to a normal old man asking him if he's alright. Our main character bolts out of the train in a really funny way, and his takeaway from the experience is ultimately that he should go back to riding the bus. Show of hands, who agrees that the lesson of this story is that you shouldn't take the subway? Okay, I see a few hands, alright. If your hand is up right now, I want you to go home to your parents today and tell them that they raised a fucking dummy. Obviously, riding the subway was not the problem. He rode the subway every day back and forth from work for 6 months. And you might be thinking that this time it was different. He rode it later at night, he rode a different line. But the old man who asks him if he's okay is riding the same train line at the same time as our main character, so that's not the issue. You have to remember what the scary passengers told our main character. They want his eyes. They want the light in his eyes. It's dark. What small details did I mention about our main character that would make his eyes special and make him more of a target for these scary passengers? Could it possibly be all the extra light his eyes absorbed from hours of staring at a computer in a dark office and then 45 minutes straight of staring at his phone on the subway? Could there possibly be any meaning to him shutting his eyes and letting them rest for a moment being the thing that makes the scary passengers go away? Enough being coy, this story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of too much screen time. Rule 5 for surviving in Creepypasta world is to rest your eyes regularly, or else creatures that desire the light trapped in your eyes will come for you.
I can't leave my bathroom.
Going back to Cirky for the next one, and I will say it's not a very active story with a lot of action. Our main character is trapped in his bathroom. He took a shower, dried off, got dressed, and when he tried to leave, he was seemingly teleported back into the bathroom. He opens the door, walks out, suddenly he's back inside and the door is closed. This happens every time he tries to walk out, so he eventually tries calling his parents for help. When his mom comes over, she texts him telling him that she is in his house, knocking on the bathroom door and calling out to his name, and he's not responding. He doesn't hear any of that on his end. His mom removes the lock from the door. It doesn't change anything about the door on his end. She says that she looks through the hole and doesn't see him in there. His mom leaves to go get somebody to take the whole door off the frame, and he tries the window. He talks about the outside world being lifeless and seemingly completely empty, but then the bathroom resets itself. His mother gets back with the handyman, they take the door off the hinges, and then his mother sends him a selfie of her in the bathroom looking pissed off because he's not in there. The story ends with his mother ignoring his pleas for help through text because she thinks this whole thing was a prank and the main character's phone is dying. And the creepypasta ends with the narrator saying that if there isn't another update, assume that he's still trapped in the bathroom. This one is a lot like The Dead Will Think You're Calling for Them, the first one we talked about, where this pisses me off. Legitimately, what the fuck did this guy do to deserve getting trapped in a pocket dimension where he will inevitably starve to death or die of dehydration, or maybe just be trapped there forever if the bathroom decides to keep him alive? Legitimately, all this guy did is take a shower and now he's trapped forever. Is it because he got dressed in the bathroom instead of getting dressed in his bedroom? Did some malicious deity see him getting dressed in his bathroom and say, "Oh, you're supposed to be doing that in the bedroom. If you want to be in the bathroom so bad, you're going to stay in the bathroom"? Maybe, who knows? Maybe he didn't get behind his ears. Maybe he didn't wash his ass good enough. The only real lesson you can glean from this story is that if you live in Creepypasta world, don't take a shower, I guess. If we cross-reference this with public restrooms from earlier, you can use bathrooms in Creepypasta world just fine, just don't take a shower. So for every story we've talked about so far, and every story we're going to talk about hereafter, just assume every character smells like absolute shit.
I'm not sure if I should or shouldn't tell this story. Chances are, nobody will believe me, as I no longer have any proof. But I feel, for the safety of others, I have to talk about The Spy.
Now this next creepypasta is pretty interesting for two very big reasons. One of them I'm not going to talk about until we get to the end and the lesson we're going to glean from this one, but the first reason it's pretty interesting is that this one has siblings. I decided to go with The Spy by Two Idiot Germans, but I just as easily could have used Plants The Heavy or Orbits The Pyro. These are all TF2 creepypastas that follow very similar formats, with the Heavy and the Spy being almost identical and the Pyro being a bit more out there. They all feature our narrators joining TF2 servers and then being terrorized by a scary version of whatever class the creepypasta is named after, with varying real-life consequences. Like, by the end of the Pyro, the main character can play TF2 just fine, but sometimes he gets a little uncomfortable on 2-Fort. But at the end of the Heavy, one of the narrator's friends is fucking murdered. But to be fair, he was unironically using the backscatter and the sun on a stick, so he kinda deserved it. That'll happen to you whether you're living in the real world or the creepypasta world. But getting back to The Spy, our main character is playing TF2 during the Halloween event and trying to get the Halloween contracts done. And he tells us that his favorite class in the game is the Spy. Go fuck yourself! This guy was a real devotee of the French bastard. He had a butterfly knife just like the Spy and even says that he would cosplay as the Spy at local events. That's important for later, but for now he's trying to get these contracts done like I said, but suddenly he gets backstabbed by a spy. A fully default spy named Spy that he assumes is a new player, but this new player continuously backstabs him. So he decides, oh, this guy's pretty good at Spy, I'm gonna go Spy too so we can have a 1v1. Which is a crazy decision because unless you talk it out beforehand, the only time you're gonna run into the enemy team's Spy while you're playing Spy is if you bump into each other while invisible and then you exchange thanks and move on. Not to mention, if you're rolling out as Spy with the explicit purpose of 1v1ing another Spy, why are you bringing L'Étranger instead of like the Ambassador or the stock revolver? Anyway, Spy is nowhere to be found, so our main character decides to just play the game regularly, and that's the moment Spy makes his appearance and backstabs him again. At this point, Derfish believes this is the greatest Spy player known to man and checks the scoreboard to see just how many points this guy has, but unfortunately Spy's nowhere to be found. Our gamer here believes Spy must have just left the server, but suddenly he gets backstabbed again. And after Spy tells him he's an amateur and a fool, Derfish leaves the server and goes to a new one. He has a little bit of fun in the server when suddenly Spy shows up again to start backstabbing him. Spy looks a little more fucked up than he did in the previous server, and after dominating and talking some more shit towards Derfish, Derfish asks the rest of his team if he's killing any of them. This is where the first big bombshell of the creepypasta comes out, where the rest of his team remarks that they don't see any player named Spy, and every time Spy kills our main character, it just looks like he's killbinding. With this shocking bit of information, Derfish server hops one more time and decides to play Soldier on Upward, and he doesn't do the rollout, so he kinda deserves what's happening to him. But as he moves out, he's constantly checking behind him because Spy has him freaked out, and when he finally decides to rocket jump when he's already 60% of the way to the second point, that's when he finally sees Spy, just standing there and watching him for a second before cloaking and running away. And this happens repeatedly. Every time Derfish looks over his shoulder to check for Spy, he sees him off in the distance just watching. That's one thing I do appreciate about The Spy as a creepypasta, because unlike its siblings, the Heavy and the Pyro, it plays upon what it feels like to go against a really good Spy. Because if there's a really good Spy on the enemy team and you're too stubborn to go Pyro and just set the entire map on fire, this is what it feels like. You're constantly looking over your shoulder, and the second you decide to have any fun whatsoever, that's when he gets you. Which is exactly what happens to Der Fish, but this time Spy is wearing the zombie cosmetic that turns him into a skeleton, and that really scares him because of how weird everything has been up to this point. Der Fish decides to check out Spy's Steam profile, probably to leave a minus rep, and it's pretty blank, with no header and no description given. When Der Fish checks the Spy's stats, he sees that his hours played of TF2 line up with the game's launch all the way back in 2007, meaning he has been playing the game non-stop since its release, and his longest life matches that time. Going back to his Steam profile, the Spy's name has been changed to I'll Be Seeing You, and Der Fish's computer crashes. He turns it back on and tries running an antivirus scan, but shortly after, all of his programs crash and his taskbar disappears. Then, a scary Spy face pops up on his screen as the Spy's laughter comes through his speakers. The laughter gradually gets louder until he can't take it anymore and he's forced to unplug his PC. Following this incident, he has to reformat his computer because it won't get past the Windows home screen, which means there's more consequences than 2 Fort being slightly uncomfortable, but less consequences than your friend dying. Not to mention, now he has regular nightmares about the Spy backstabbing him in real life, and every time he wakes up from one of these nightmares, his butterfly knife is in his bed. Which could be seen as his trauma-stricken brain doing weird stuff in his sleep, or it could mean the TF2 Spy is coming after him in real life, or at the very least tormenting him in real life. Now the obvious lesson with this creepypasta and its siblings, the Heavy and the Pyro, is to not play TF2. And if you came to that conclusion, I'm not going to get upset with you because it is the message put forth by these 3 creepypasta specifically. But the thing is, there are more creepypasta about video games as a whole than there are about any other medium. Biggest ones being like Sonic EXE, NES Godzilla, Ben Drowned, the Toho 11 project. And the lesson you would learn from those creepypastas is that you shouldn't buy used games or emulate games, which makes me think Nintendo might have cut some type of deal with a bunch of ghosts. But then you got creepypasta like The Spy here, where you can get got by a spirit while playing an online multiplayer game. You didn't get it from a garage sale or download it from a shady website. This haunting came straight from Steam. The fact that the ghost has a Steam profile should concern you. So with all that in mind, I'm going to say the next rule to survive in creepypasta world is just don't play video games. It's impossible to tell which ones are safe, and there's no creepypasta about a guy getting killed by an evil book. If Sonic R isn't safe, I'm not trusting NBA 2K.
I peeled back the curtain and tried my best to look outside. I found it nearly impossible. The snow was already covering the lower half of the window itself.
This creepypasta starts with a considerable amount of humble bragging. Our two-eyed demo man narrator talks about how he grew up in the northern United States, spent a lot of time outside, just had a great childhood all around. He talks about how he started working at this big department store in high school, and after a few years worked his way up to management, so while all his friends had to move away for job opportunities in college, he could afford to buy a house in his hometown. Then he complains about the weather for a while, but that's not that important. In the middle of November, a blizzard hits his town and he is completely snowed in. And I ain't talking about the whistleblower. Our main character is lucky he's stocked up on supplies because much like the human spider in a cage match with Bonesaw McGraw, he's going nowhere. But neither is anyone else in town, so the department store he works at is closed until the weather clears up. Also, his phone stops working because of the weather. The first day of being snowed into his house, our main character catches a small glimpse of something moving in the blizzard, but can't really make out what it is. He figures it's an animal seeking shelter. He bullshits for the rest of the day, and when he wakes up the next morning, he looks out his window again and definitively sees a silhouette standing out in the snow. He bullshits for the rest of day 2, and that night when he's lying in bed, he hears somebody knocking on his front door. He tries to ignore it and just brush it off as the weather hitting his house, but it becomes unmistakable that it is someone knocking. He heads down to his living room to investigate, and he doesn't immediately see somebody by his front door. Before he can say, "Must have been the wind," there's a knock at his window. And that's when it's revealed the figure he's been seeing out in the blizzard is a Fallout 4 feral ghoul. Now, I had heard these are pretty common on the east and west coast of the United States, but anybody that actually lives in America, do y'all have these up in the northern parts? Or is this an anomaly? I mean, regardless, the way our main character describes the creature's demeanor is important to learning the lesson of this creepypasta, so I'm just gonna play it.
Its expression seemed calm, like it was someone just patiently waiting. But its eyes, they betrayed the rest of its demeanor. Its eyes were filled with rage, jealousy, and pain. It stared at me with unflinching precision, like it wanted nothing more than to see me dead.
Once the ghoul has gone away, our main character barricades his home to the best of his abilities and talks about how every night he hears the creature knocking on different parts of his house trying to find a way inside. Earlier in the story, he mentioned that he's been snowed in for about a week and he saw the creature on his second night. So the creature's been trying to break into his house for the last 5 days and he's been unable to contact any emergency services. And the creepypasta ends with our narrator lamenting that his only hope is for the weather to let up soon because if the creature breaks inside, he won't have any way to escape. Very solid ending. I like this animation and this creepypasta a lot, but can anyone tell me what the moral of the story was? Nobody? I don't blame you. This is a tough one. There are a lot of things we could try and point to and blame the current situation on. The knee-jerk reaction would be don't live in the north, but you have to remember what he said at the beginning. He's lived in this same town his entire life and never encountered this issue. But you are close to the right track. The weather of the north is a big factor to this story. This creepypasta wouldn't have happened if that blizzard never hit his small town, but the lesson of the story can't be don't let a blizzard hit your town. You have to think, what is different about our main character between this current blizzard and the last time a blizzard hit this town? I see a couple eyes lighten up as people start to get it. The issue here is that he is a new homeowner. You have to remember, the 3 emotions that he saw in the creature's eyes were pain, rage, and jealousy. Maybe I should have mentioned this, but early in the creepypasta, our narrator mentions that most of the homeowners in his town were older folks not interested in selling. All of our narrator's friends, his peers, people his age had to move away, but by grinding through high school, he was able to buy a home not long after graduating. So now, while the worst snowstorm in years is hitting this small town, he's just chilling in the house eating popcorn and watching movies. If you were a ghoul stuck in a blizzard and you were just watching a guy who was barely 20 sit in his house and eat popcorn and watch movies and have a grand old time for 2 days straight, wouldn't you want to kill that guy? The ghoul doesn't own a home and he couldn't move away for job opportunities, so he's just stuck out there. The ghoul's pain and jealousy led to his rage, and that led me to believe the lesson of this story and the next rule for our list is don't own a house. Hey, in this economy, I don't think any of you are gonna have trouble following that rule. Now this next creepypasta is another really short one, but I had to get a DN Bray one in here because their video, The Smiling Man, was the first ever SFM creepypasta I ever watched. Unfortunately, the lesson of The Smiling Man is that you shouldn't walk around by yourself at 2 a.m. or else you'll be chased down by an insane person. That's not exactly exclusive to the creepypasta world, but the threat of 403 is. The animation starts with our main character waking up screaming from a nightmare. In that nightmare, a horrible creature was slaughtering his entire family one by one. And maybe it's a little late in the video for me to say this, but I absolutely love the way these animators have to adapt the creepypasta monsters. Because it is so common for a creepypasta to take so much time just describing its creature down to the smallest detail. Like this one describes its creature as having a short, fat body with long, slender arms, claws like swords, and teeth like knives. That sounds like an Ark Survival Evolved character, bro. Where's an animator supposed to get a model that looks like that? Like I joked talked about the Fallout 4 ghoul in the last animation, but I totally understood it. For this animation, DN Bray went with an Archvile from Doom Eternal, and it works well enough. Doom would be a horror game if the main character wasn't Doom Guy. But after the Archvile finishes killing the guy's mother, he's nice enough to explain to him how his mechanics work. The creature mimicked the voice of the main character's father and tricked him into opening the door for it. It's like a vampire that can't come in unless you invite it in. The narrator finishes describing his dream and his mother knocks on his door asking him if he's alright. He says he's fine, he just had a bad dream, and his mother says she's got a glass of water for him if he wants it. He tells her to come in, and then right afterwards he remembers that he moved back into his college dorm 3 weeks ago. Meaning the creature from his nightmare is real and that our main character just fucked up the mechanics right after watching the tutorial. He should have realized something was up when she actually knocked on the door and asked if she could come in. No mom in history has ever knocked before barging into their kid's room. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist or an English teacher to figure out what the lesson of this story is. Don't ever invite anyone in. If they don't have a key or they didn't come in with you, tough luck. They're gonna have to sit out there with the monster.
First, I need to apologize to you. I'm so sorry. I'm coming to you in my time of need. Please help me. Please listen to the end. That's it. That's all I ask.
This is going to be the final animation I talk about today, and this is the second animation I've talked about today where the twist is actually pretty important. So just like earlier, I'd recommend you go watch this animation first if you want to experience the twist in a non-Cliff Notes form. And I think you should check out all of these animations. I'll have links to all of them in the description, because I'm really not doing them justice. I'm keeping all the flavor for myself and feeding you raw nutrient cubes. But as you just heard, this creepypasta starts with our narrator begging us to watch the video all the way to the end, and this is amateur hour. He doesn't even lie and say there's a free gift card giveaway. He introduces himself as Andrew and says he's a single father, but he also says fatherhood is a burden and anybody who takes pride in being a dad is an absolute bitch. I am barely embellishing that. He says he has an 11-year-old son named Jesse that started the 5th grade this year, but don't pat him on the back or give him any milk and cookies for it. One Tuesday, Jesse's class gets a new transfer student named Stan, and the teacher sits Stan next to Jesse. When Andrew goes to pick his son up, Jesse is pale and sweaty and won't stop repeating that Stan is his new best friend. He repeats that over and over all the way up until his bedtime, at which point he asks his dad, "Hey, you believe me about Stan being my best friend, right?" The next day, after dropping Jesse off at school, Andrew almost runs over that guy from My Hero Academia. After school, Jesse's in high spirits because during recess he joined a church, the Church of Stan, and during Stan's sermon he cast a spell that makes everybody in attendance drowsy. Not the worst thing that's ever happened to a little boy in a church. When Andrew picks Jesse up from school the next day, he is absolutely tweaking. He is freaking the fuck out. He says at recess that day they played the Soul Game. When Andrew asks what the Soul Game is, Jesse refuses to tell him, and when he says he's gonna go ask Stan, Jesse freaks out some more and begs his dad to not ask Stan about it. That night, Jesse freaks out some more about the Soul Game and winds up sleeping in his dad's bed. While he's asleep, Jesse's eyes pop open and he tells his dad, "I'll tell you the rules after school tomorrow, mister." And then Andrew barely gets any sleep because he's terrorized by a shadowy TF2 sniper for the rest of the night. The next morning, Andrew drops Jesse off at school but has to turn right back around to come get him because he threw up. On the way home, Jesse asks if Stan can come over today, and after a little bit of back and forth, Andrew does agree to let Stan come over. Exactly 1 second after agreeing that Stan can come over, Stan is at the door and he greets Andrew by calling him his old college nickname Long Nuts. And also Stan's sister that's never been mentioned is there too. Her name's Devin and she explains the rules of the Soul Game. Rule number 1, don't walk past mirrors in the dark. Rule number 2 is don't leave any doors open when you go to bed, which is a real blow to me because leaving my front door open at night is the only way I know how to make friends. They say Jesse will tell him what the third rule is, but I have to say, based on these 2 rules, what is soul about this game? Maybe you call it the mirror and doors game and it makes sense, but this doesn't have anything to do with souls. They also give him a few guidelines that aren't rules, like if you hear a creak, you're falling behind. If you see a shadowy silhouette in the corner of the room, that's not good. and if you hear a bang, you really don't want to hear a bang. It's not that hard to close all the doors before you go to bed and just get rid of the mirrors in your house. Guy like me winning every Soul Game tournament from local to regionals. But Andrew goes back in the house and he finds Jesse crying because Jesse heard a bang, and honestly, no wonder he thinks this kid is a burden because he is ass at the Soul Game. But more important than that, we are about to hit the big twist of this story, and the big twist of this story actually entirely changes what the lesson of this creepypasta is. Because up until this point, you could argue that the lesson is as simple as the title, don't play the Soul Game, or you could argue the lesson is don't let your kid make friends. You could even walk away thinking that if he ran that kid over earlier, this wouldn't be an issue now. But the real lesson reveals itself when Jesse says the third rule of the Soul Game is that knowing all three rules makes you a player. And the Soul Game goes on until you win or lose. The lose condition is that Stan and Devin reach out through the mirror or the open doorway and drag you away. And I'm gonna say again, if you lose this game knowing all the rules, it's a skill issue at that point. But the way you win the Soul Game is by telling more people about the Soul Game than the person that told you. And the creepypasta ends with Andrew very smugly thanking us for listening to the end and asking us to give Stan and Devin his regards. Oh my god, guys, now Stan is gonna come after me because I know all the rules.
What's your name? Stan.
The final lesson I'm going to share with you today, the final rule you have to follow if you want to survive in the creepypasta world. Don't watch YouTube videos, because they may have a curse attached to them. Not my videos, mind you. All of my videos are guaranteed 100% curse-free. You can watch all of them without worrying, especially this one. But you have to think, Andrew uploaded this video just to spread a curse. If it wasn't for me kicking that kid's head off, who knows what Stan and Devin would have done next? Do you think your favorite YouTuber has too much integrity to take a Soul Game sponsorship? Do you really think Stan and Devin wouldn't have been able to get Markiplier? Just for your own safety, if you live in the creepypasta world, don't watch any videos except for mine. They're all safe, especially this one. But real quick, now that we have our 10 rules, I think we should just go over them one more time, make sure all of you understand them. Don't whistle at night, because the dead will think you're calling for them and you'll get haunted for the rest of your life. Don't wash your hands, because somebody will come out of the stall and slit your throat. Don't shake anybody's hand, because anybody who's still alive doesn't wash their hands. Only smoke in moderation, because smoking too much will either lead to an encounter with or turn you into a nicotine monster. Rest your eyes regularly, or otherwise you may become a target of people with lightless eyes. Don't take a shower, because you might get sent to a pocket dimension that looks like your bathroom and be stuck there until you die. Don't play video games, because no matter what type of game you try and play, there is a very real threat of a ghost kicking your ass. Don't own a house, because otherwise a ghoul might get jealous and decide to kill you. Don't invite anybody in, because it may be an arch-vile mimicking your loved ones to gain entry into your home. And finally, don't watch any YouTube videos that aren't mine, because there may be a single father trying to curse you with them. Now, this is by no means a comprehensive list of restrictions that will keep you safe from every threat in the creepypasta world, but it's a good enough start. For all I know, there could be a Netflix monster that kills you if you don't answer "Are you still watching?" quick enough. I'm just trying to keep as many people safe as I can. If you live in the creepypasta world, I hope you found this helpful, and if you don't live in the creepypasta world, I hope you found this entertaining. Either way, watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies.